Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting for Tuesday, June 17th. Ms. West, will you please call the roll?
Councilman De La Garza.
I am present.
Councilman Kidder.
Here.
Councilwoman Butler.
Present.
Councilwoman Scott.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Young.
Here.
Councilman Lofgren.
Here.
Mayor Crocker.
Here. If you would, please rise and join me for the pledges, followed by a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, welcome everyone. We will jump straight into our items for the evening. We'll start with B1, announcements and reminders. Mr. Garza, do you have anything for us this evening?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have several updates for you this evening. First, we'd like to remind the public that all non-emergency city offices will be closed on Thursday, June 19th in observance of Juneteenth. Offices will reopen at 8 a.m. on Friday, June 20th. Yard waste and recycling scheduled for Thursday will be collected as usual. The Victoria Public Library will be open from 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on that day as well. On behalf of Public Works, the City of Victoria is now terminating Stage 3 drought restrictions and re-entering Stage 2 after heavy rainfall caused the river to rise, which allows the city to resume normal pumping and reduces the need for restrictions. Under Stage 2 of the plan, residents are no longer required to limit watering of lawns to designated days. However, residents still must limit the following activities to the hours of 6 to 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. to midnight. They include using an automatic lawn sprinkler or hose-end sprinkler, filling pools, and washing vehicles. Of course, this restriction does not apply to commercial car washes and service stations. For more information about the drought contingency plan, please visit victoriatx.gov/drought plan or contact Public Works at 361-485-3380. On behalf of the library, you might have seen, and hopefully you did, that we have begun celebrating the 50th anniversary this summer of our Victoria Public Library. Artistically inclined patrons aged 14 and up are encouraged to participate in VPL's Library Card Design Contest. The deadline to submit a design is Saturday, June 28th, and the winning design will be used during Library Card Sign-Up Month in September. Rules and entry forms are available at the library's front desk. To stay up to date on the 50th anniversary events and programs, please visit victoriatx.gov/library or follow Victoria Public Library on Facebook or Instagram. On behalf of Municipal Court, they will be holding a Child Safety Committee, the Municipal Court's Child Safety Committee will be hosting 2 application success workshops to help nonprofit organizations interested in applying for a Child Safety Fund grant. These workshops will walk potential applicants through the process and give them the tools needed to submit a strong application. The workshops will be held at 11 a.m. on Thursday, June 26th, and Wednesday, July 2nd, in the Economic Development Conference Room at 700 Main Center, Suite 104. And finally, I want to remind you that we will be hosting a budget work session here on Friday, June 27th, where we will present a preliminary fiscal year 26 budget. As a reminder, this is solely preliminary. I formally do not present the proposed budget until the first meeting in August, which occurs after we receive the formal property tax, certified tax rolls at the end of July.
All right, thank you very much. And then we will jump to item B2, public and employee recognitions. Do you have anything this evening?
I do, Mayor. I don't believe they are here, but we do want to, and if they are not, but they're hard at work. But we had several police officers recently receive post-secondary degrees, and we want to acknowledge them for that. They were unable to attend because they're working, but we want to recognize them nonetheless. They include Billy Bernard, who received an associate's degree, Ethan Casillas, a bachelor's degree, Wilmer McElroy, a bachelor's degree, and Kobe Kutash, a master's degree. And so we want to congratulate them for their educational achievements. And that's all I have for this evening.
All right, thank you very much. We will move on then to item B3, which is items from council. Does anyone have anything this evening?
I received a couple of complaints on a street, Lone Tree Road, right by Caterpillar, between John Stockbar and the Loop, that there were some repairs made there in the past, and now that's buckled, and the cars are hitting the bottom of it. And they need, employees of the Caterpillar and ETC are saying that it's a pretty bad situation, that they need that speed bump repaired or whatever it's turned into.
We'll have staff check it out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De La Garza. Anyone else? All right, seeing none then, we will move into citizens' communications. I have 2 cards. The first is Michael Vondera. Mr. Vondera, welcome back.
Thanks. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Michael Vondro. I live at 2107 North Bend, Jordan. I forgot to check my timing belt and it broke, and then I needed another engine, but I got an engine. Just needed one engine, that was it, you know. So it's all good, but thanks for your concern. We have, this is hurricane season, and you know, it's been raining for several days in Victoria. And the trailer park owner, even though he's a multimillionaire and makes $400 an hour and has all this money to concrete the trailer park, no money in the budget, you know, to fix the trailer, fix the mailboxes. You know, the tenants are getting wet mail because there's no lids on the mailboxes. And I don't know if maybe the city of Victoria could help him out or something, because he just don't have enough money to get those mailboxes fixed and stuff. And this has been going on for several years. It's not something that just came up. And when I was riding my bike on the sidewalk, I got hit by a banana leaf and stuff. And I wish they could like trim those banana trees, you know, so when people ride their bicycles, they don't get smacked in the face. You know, if you don't believe me, go ride your bicycle up there and you get smacked in the face. But I wish he could take care of that, you know, because he can afford it. You know, he's one of the state's best personal injury lawyer, and he's good at, you know, winning $1 million cases, but he's not good at fixing mailboxes that need to be fixed. And it's not fair to the tenants, and, you know, they can't complain because they could get evicted, but I can complain because he can't evict me because I don't live there anymore. So anyway, thanks for the help the city council and code enforcement and the plan commission done on the trailer park, and he's put some concrete there and it's looking nice. I appreciate it, because without the city of Victoria's help, I think he would have continued to turn a blind eye and not fix it. And he's got $80 million worth of investments, and you know, there's no excuse for him not to take care of it. Thanks, and have a good evening. And thanks for the police department sponsoring the 5K run. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Vondera. All right, the last card I have is Kim Pickens. Welcome back, Ms. Pickens. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys too. Hope we are all staying dry and that the mosquitoes are not trying to carry you away. Good evening. I wanted to address a situation. I know that I always come and talk about homelessness, so it's it's a no-brainer when you see me. But right now we are really at critical mass with situations of having a state camping ban, having city ordinances that don't allow people to be in certain places. The police do what they can because they follow the ordinances and the laws. The issue is, like, I have people who are receiving, I have one gentleman who received 4 CTWs in 1 week because he can't find a place to sleep. He's doing everything right. He's a disabled person who receives a check, can't find a place to live because we have a lack of not just affordable housing, but actual like income-based housing that he can get into. He's never gonna make 2 times the amount of rent for income-restricted versus income-based housing. He is sleeping outside in a tent. He moves around. He's not trying to break the law. He's not trying to, but if we can't provide shelter as a city, however that looks, if we can't provide shelter for people, we have to stop CTWing people for trying to find a place to sleep. We don't have a shelter for couples or families or for men beyond the Salvation Army. They have been maxed at 14. We have way more than 14 men that need a place to sleep. So I am asking you all to consider a moratorium on CTWs for people who are homeless and trying to just sleep, because we don't have any alternatives for them. This person also is on the waiting list for places like Fox Run that do income-based housing. We check every Tuesday. He's only moved up 10 in the past month and a half, 2 months. So the thing is, it could be 6 months, it could be a year before he gets housed. And the thing is, if he continues to be CTW'd, it just adds to a criminal record and helps to keep him not being housed. So like I said, I would love for you guys to consider a moratorium. Like I said, it's creating a problem for people who are just trying to find a place to sleep. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pickens. Appreciate your comments. All right. I will then close citizens' communications. We'll move on to Section C, items of public hearings, and we'll begin with item C1.
A public hearing and resolution for council consideration of tax abatement agreement with Zephyros Incorporated, authorizing executive of the agreement by the city manager and declaring effective date.
As you can see, Danielle's not handling this item. Jonas is.
Excellent.
Mr. Titus, welcome.
All right, well, good to see y'all. Thank y'all so much. So, here we are tonight. We were before y'all a month ago, officially submitting this application at the first May meeting. But also, the timeline going back on the slide before you starts with the creation of the reinvestment zone, which designates the area for potential incentives. The reinvestment zone encompasses the entire kind of Lone Tree area, Lone Tree 2 Industrial Park. Submitted the application on the 6th. Public hearing notice was sent out middle of last month, and here we are tonight for the public hearing. I want to thank Allison and Danielle and Nancy Garner for a lot of their due diligence, making sure that we all stayed on track and followed all the protocols. We've also provided a handout for you all, which includes the application and the guidelines. I know there was a little ambiguity exactly where this project fit as far as scale and number of jobs and capital investment. So this would be an 8-year tax abatement, and it would be for a slightly more than 7-acre tract in Lone Tree 2, so which is the last tract that is owned by the Sales Tax Development Corporation. The application states that this project intends to construct a 53,000 square foot facility and invest $27 million in improvements on that site and begin employment with 12 employees. And these are good paying jobs. They range from $65,000 to $130,000 annual salary. And so this is also a Caterpillar supplier. They supply the pins and other items for Caterpillar and other heavy industry throughout the potential clients throughout the state. So with that, be happy to answer any questions. This is one we're extremely excited about. Seems to check a lot of boxes for us, and I know Caterpillar's excited as well.
Any questions for Mr. Titus? All right. Thank you very much. With that, then, I will open the public hearing with respect to item C1. If there's anyone who wishes to address council on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing on item C1 and entertain any motions with respect to this item.
Move to adopt C1.
Second. All right, I've got a motion and a second. 2 seconds. They were right next to each other. Is there any discussion on C1? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item C1 then passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your information. All right, moving on then to item C2.
C2, ordinance providing for the imposition of the levy of an additional hotel occupancy tax equal to 2% of the venue project approved by the voters of the city of Victoria, Texas, May 3rd, 2025, and consisting of the expansion and renovation, maintenance and improvements of the Victoria Community Center, amending the Code of Ordinances Chapter 8, Article 3, Hotel and Motel Occupancy Tax, 8-32, and containing other provisions incident and related to purpose of the ordinance, and this is on first reading.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As I'm sure you've guessed, this is our first of two ordinances for, that are a result of our May election. This is for the additional 2% hotel tax. This ordinance simply amends our current section 8-32 of our Code of Ordinances to include the additional tax, and we'll implement that. You will see another ordinance come before you here shortly for the short-term vehicle rental tax that was also approved by the voters. And so this is just updating our code to include those additional provisions.
And will this take 3 readings?
3 readings, but we'll have 2.
We'll have 2, we'll do
Yes.
second, third, okay, all right,
This will come back to you at the next meeting as well.
gotcha, okay. Any questions for Ms. Lacey? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
With that then, I will open the public hearing with respect to item C2. If there's anyone that wishes to address council on this item, please come forward. Seeing no one then, I will close the public hearing on item C2 and entertain any motions with respect to this item.
I move we adopt C2.
Okay, I've got a motion and second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item C2 passes. Very good. Let's jump into the consent agenda. We will be removing one item, and that is item D1, the adoption of the minutes. We'll remove that from the consent agenda because we have a couple of corrections to make on that. So, Ms. West, will you take care of reading the remainder of the consent agenda for us? And this is heavy lifting.
D2, resolution approving an annual supply contract with Thornton Musso and Bellman Incorporated for TMB 26 in the amount not to exceed $100,200. D3, a resolution approving an annual supply contract with Thornton Musso and Bellman Incorporated for TMB 78 in the amount not to exceed $85,500. D4, a resolution approving the renewal of an annual supply contract with Caris LLC for liquid phosphate-based corrosion inhibitor and in the amount not to exceed $160,500. D5, a resolution approving the renewal of an annual supply contract with Thornton Musso and Bellman Incorporated for TMB 1160 in the amount not to exceed $297,304.32. D6, resolution approving the renewal of an annual supply contract with Thornton Musso and Bellman Incorporated, TMB 471C, in the amount not to exceed $139,177.92. D7, a resolution approving the change order to the professional services agreement with Command Commissioning LLC for commissioning services at the Public Safety Headquarters. D8, a resolution approving the renewal of annual supply contract with Brentag Southwest Incorporated for liquid chlorine in the amount not to exceed $434,085. D9, a resolution approving the purchase of VMware SAN licensings with SHI Government Solutions in the amount not to exceed $72,893.50. D10, resolution approving the purchase of a comprehensive technology infrastructure for the new public safety headquarters from DataVox Incorporated in a combined amount not to exceed $408,172.47. D11, a resolution on renewal and reinstatement agreement with One Solution with Central Square Technologies LLC for the Police Department Records Management System, RMS, and Computer-Aided Dispatch, CAD, system in the amount not to exceed $220,743.47. And D12, resolution awarding a contract with Staff Concrete Construction for modifications to Victoria Mall driveway project for their competitive seal proposal in the amount of $97,126.
Thank you, Ms. West. Do I have any motions with respect to items D2 through 12 of the consent agenda?
I move we adopt items, the consent agenda as read. I'll second that.
Well played. All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those items pass. We will then bring up item D1, which is the adoption of minutes from our regular meeting held on June 3rd, 2025. There was a couple of errors in the draft minutes that were read that Ms. Lacey and I discussed this morning. And Ms. Lacey, would you walk us through those so we all are looking at the same thing?
Yes, sir. And I apologize to you, Mayor and Council. We've had some glitches in the system, and we've had a difficult time updating some of our documents when we find errors. However, in the minutes from the last meeting, under item E2, there's two separate votes. The first vote should read ayes as City Council Member Jan Scott and City Council Member Stephen Kidder, with the nays including Mayor Dwayne Crocker, Mayor Pro Tem Andrew Young, and City Council Member April Butler. On the second vote, the ayes should read Mayor Dwayne Crocker, Mayor Pro Tem Andrew Young, and City Council Member April Butler, and striking City Council Member Rafael De La Garza. And the nays should read City Council Member Jan Scott and City Council Member Stephen Kidder.
Thank you, Ms. Lacey. Do we need a separate motion for each of those items, or can we do that as one motion to make the corrections you just read?
I would open with the first motion to accept the minutes, and then you can make the amendment and vote on that, and then go back to the original motion and second and vote on that one.
Okay. So do I have a motion for adoption of the minutes? Got a motion and a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second, and now we'll need a motion for correction. Do I have a motion for the correction as read by Ms. Lacey?
I move that we accept what Allison just said.
And I second that.
All right, a motion is second on
With
the
the
correction.
corrections.
All in favor of the correction, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we need to vote again on the original motion to adopt
The
the
minutes
amended
as
and-
corrected.
as corrected.
Yes, sir.
Correct, okay. So
All for that one.
I call for that vote. We don't have to have a new motion on that then. So I'll call for the vote on approval of the minutes as corrected. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. As corrected, the minutes are passed then.
That seemed efficient.
Like an open parentheses.
It's not efficient at all. I'm all about function, not form, but here we go. Okay, then let's move to section E. We'll go with item E1.
E1, approve a professional service contract with Populous Incorporated for design services and construction administration from the community center expansion and renovation in the amount of $1,999,873.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. As Allison alluded to, we're continuing to progress with all of the items relevant to the community center renovation and expansion project that was approved by the voters in May. I know that many of you have questions and comments about the financing aspect of it, and do know that we do plan on providing a thorough update for you, which will begin as part of the preliminary budget at the end of the month. But then we'll designate some time in July to walk you through that, as there have been some changes to the positive. And so as an example, we've worked to develop an option for you that would not issue 50 million in COs, and it would be less. That was one of the feedbacks that we received from you and from the public about us wanting to focus our COs on things like streets.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I don't know, that's up to y'all. But as he figures that out, we wanted to take advantage of this agenda item to provide you an update on the design aspect of it. And so I want to turn it over to Todd Gralla, who many of you know and you've met, who's with Populous. And so he'll walk you through some of the latest as it relates to the design, and then walk you through a design timeline. And we'll be available to answer any questions that you might have about either of those. So Todd, can you hear me now?
I can. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And hopefully, James, you can coordinate pulling up some of the items. Todd, at your direction, we'll pull up the items that you sent us to show.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Great to be back, if not only virtually. And really looking forward to getting this project kicked off. If you want to pull up the slides I provided, that would be great. We can kind of talk about the project a little bit. Excellent. So as you guys will probably remember, we wrapped up the master planning study and concept design. This was kind of the resulting direction we proposed for the site and future projects. Primarily, number 3 being the red part. That's our existing community center. Significant renovations in that space, in the dome, as well as food service, bathrooms, public spaces, and then converting the existing arena to a flat floor multi-use event space for banquets, sports, a variety of different events. 6 and 7 are added venues. 6 is an event arena. 7 is a covered multi-use livestock or horse barn to help grow that event, provide additional space for animals as well as warm-up space, and then various site improvements around the buildings, which improves parking improvements, signage, wayfinding, landscaping, security lighting, and so on. Now that was the end of our master planning process, but we continued to engage with Jesus and his team at the city, and also we paid a visit about 2 months ago back to Victoria to have another session with the livestock show stakeholders. Being one of the biggest events currently at the venue, they had some additional input that they'd like us to consider. So we came back down and had a session with them. And the next slide kind of depicts some proposed changes based on their input in that session. If you can go to the next. All right, perfect. Sorry, back one. So what we did was there was some discussion on, what is the best placement for an arena moving forward. And if we build the arena directly adjacent to and parallel with the existing building and backing it up to the livestock barn, could it ever be expanded? Do we have space to have cattle trucks and things back behind there, possibly even RV hookups and things? And really, when we started looking at it, it was a pretty good input and a good idea to consider pulling that arena kind of out of that armpit of the 2 existing buildings and giving it a little breathing space. That could allow us to add a warm-up arena in the future when it gets enclosed. It'll continue to provide good service on the back side of it to get cattle trucks, horse trailers, other equipment in there. And then moving the livestock multi-use building out where number 7 is indicated. That would provide us the ability to also potentially expand that building in the future and connect to the existing livestock barn, as well as connect across the alley into the existing arena, which will become that flat floor space. So these changes do provide us with a little bit more flexibility in how we're able to use the facilities, either independently or combined together for one large event. It does give us another nice front door on the east side of the campus, planned north, that would parallel some of the new entry work being done on the existing community center. And really, I think, does a nice job of giving us kind of a donut of parking and multi-use site space all the way around the buildings without cramming all the buildings together. So I like these changes, and it's important to remember that this was just the planning phase. As we begin the design phase, we'll continue to have sessions where we have kind of some of the key event stakeholders come in and do reviews and kind of walk through how it would work for them individually, as well as public sessions where we'll give public updates, take input on how the design is progressing through the rest of this summer. One thing that's important to note is I've
Go
kind of
back,
shaded
please.
parts of our master plan, and I did that because it's important that to kind of depict what we're focusing on right now with this project. So the ball field area is over to the left, and then some of the open space and skate park to the right are not really the priority areas of this immediate project. We're really focused on getting the community center renovations completed, the event arena, and then the covered livestock barn with their related site improvements around that core of the community center. That being said, we're also still looking at the edge treatment at North Street and also Ben Wilson of how we're landscaping, fencing, providing walkways, and I think even sometime coincidentally in the time frame of this project, there may be East North Street projects occurring. So we're taking a look at the whole property, but our real focus of buildings and major project is going to be in that core area.
And Todd, if I can add to that, many of you may recall when we were going through the public education process leading up to the election in May, we did receive, in addition to the feedback around the amount of COs that I alluded to earlier, we were also receiving quite a bit of feedback on that proposed layout, if you will. And so the session that Todd is referring to that he came back for about a month and a half ago was in our effort to ensure that we continue to take that feedback into account. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that how this site lays out it puts this facility in a position to be the most successful as possible, right? I mean, we're not spending this money to then, after it's built, receive feedback that, hey, you know what, you didn't space it out right. We can't actually do rodeos or things of that sort. And so in addition to the livestock show, the stakeholders that Todd is referring to, we also very specifically invited some individuals in our community that have quite a bit of experience attending and being involved with and organizing rodeos. Because that's a big part of it. A big part of this arena is to build it in such a way that it could host rodeos during the livestock show and all types of other livestock-centric events throughout the year, right? And so something as simple as, pulling it out and putting it to the side, how this depicts, could create some greater space to be able to do that. And so we wanted to make sure that we showed you the latest, but I'll echo Todd's comments that we're not suggesting this is final either. This is just the sort of next iteration of it, and we'll show this iteration to the stakeholders again to receive some additional feedback, but it was important for you to see it and important for you to know that there's been some movement behind the scenes to make progress to listening to some of that feedback and some movement to get this in as best shape as possible in a quick manner. Jan, you look like you have a question.
Yeah, I'm processing all of it, but I guess my only question, it's not really a question, it's a statement, is that the RV hookups are now, I think, further from the livestock barns and from the arena. And I'm not one that knows if that's significant or not, but it seems like one of the major uses for those RV hookups would be during the stock show. And the distance from especially the animal barn, I'm not sure what it's called.
Good comment. So we do have RV hookups in number 13, which is just planned south.
Okay, I was looking at 11, so thank you.
Yeah, we do have them there at the perimeter of that lot. They won't be in the center of the lot because we have to kind of keep that clear for large trailer movements. And then we're considering right now kind of where exactly the carnival will be situated, whether it's where it's shown here in number 11, or maybe to the right, plan right of the new arena, 22. But there will be also utility hookups and RV hookups associated with wherever that settles down. I just don't want to commit to that particular location at this time because that's still I think a piece that's maybe moving around. But we'll have additional RV hookups wherever that lands on the site.
That
But,
answers
very
my
good comment.
question, and also voices the same concern, so I'm just glad to hear it's still being considered. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I know we'll all have comments and work through this as the process unfolds, but certainly we appreciate the work that's already been put into this, and I know that there's more to come, so.
100%. And so Todd, if you can transition to your design timeline?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a pretty high level timeline of how we see the project coming together through February of 27. We're very firm on the design timeline, basically through the end of this year. We have a design team kickoff on site the week of June 30th, where we'll have our full design team and engineering team on site. We'll be really kind of crawling through the existing building. We do have a lot of information. We did a lot of analysis early on in the planning, but this is very real now. So we have to really take a closer look at systems and where load-bearing walls and structures are and things to move forward. We have a couple of months or less than a couple of months of schematic design, design development into 1st of October, and then by the end of the year, we'll have complete documents done. We do have to go through permitting process, and there'll be a mobilization period where the construction manager is getting all their subs out on the site. But one thing that's important to keep in mind, and I put a little yellow dot there, is that we do have the livestock show coming up, which is end of February, 1st of March. We need to make sure that whatever is started, if anything started prior to that we don't impact that. So once the construction manager's on board, we will be, along with Jesus and the city team, kind of working all together collaboratively to figure out, are there elements that could start earlier? Can they begin procuring long lead items so that when they do mobilize to start selective demolition and rebuilding, that we can be as efficient as possible. But we have an estimated substantial completion right now of January 31st, 2027. And that gives us, 30 days to kind of get moved in, shake stuff down before we have livestock show. And it's also important to note that most likely the two new buildings there's a good chance they're going to be finished before the renovation project. Renovation projects, of course, are always a little bit messier and take more time than a brand new building, because we have to go in and do the selective demolition and clean stuff out before we can start the rebuild. But once we do have the construction manager on board, we will be able to work all together and set forth a much more detailed schedule from December of this year through the completion.
And one of the things, if I may add, Todd, that will obviously help the cause of this aggressive timeline is the timeline that we're also following internally to select an owner's rep and that construction manager at risk that Todd's alluding to. And so this month, we will have out the RFQ for the owner's rep. We anticipate that owner's rep coming on board in August, no later than August. And that will help us finalize the RFQ for the construction manager at risk, which we hope to get on board by October, so that as they're finalizing all of these designs, we can get true cost estimation from the general contractor that we select, and they can start the planning, the mobilization, and everything else that Todd is referring to. And so there's more items that will come before you as it relates to the selection of the owner's rep and the selection of the general contractor or the construction manager at risk, which will play a key role in ensuring that we meet this timeline. Okay.
All right.
Happy to
Anything
answer any,
further?
yeah, happy to answer any questions that you might have for either Todd or I.
Questions?
Questions?
All right. Well, obviously, a very exciting project, and we're looking forward to working with Populous going forward. pending the vote on item E1. So I'll entertain any motions with respect to item E1.
I move we adopt E1.
I second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item E1 passes. Todd, thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you.
All right, we will move on then to item E2.
E2, approve change order number 1 for the 2025 residential street maintenance project to Clark Construction of Texas in the amount of an additional $447,564. Contract amount is $3,872,951.24.
Good evening, Mr. Shiblet.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure to be here again. Tonight, I'm asking you to give consideration to a change order to our 2025 residential street maintenance project. This change order is for improvements along Lingo Lane and Magruder Drive. These streets have been considered in past years as part of the CIP, but seem to kept getting bumped down the line. And just this past March and April, when we reworked Vine Street from Main up to the end at the Facetti's property, and then Wagner Way from Vine Street to the railroad. This will then complete that section of road improvements from Main all the way to Country Club. The proposed improvements that we're looking to do are to reclaim and stabilize with cement the existing base material, shape it, compact it, prime coat, 2-core seal coat, and then top that with a coat of onyx. As was read as part of the agenda, the change order price is $447,500.64 for a final contract price of $3,872,951.24. This will add about half mile of additional street to the 25 street residential street maintenance project for a total of 9.4 miles. And the contractor has not asked for any additional time to complete this work.
And I'll just add to that to be more, I guess, straightforward with what we're suggesting. This Magruder Lingo Lane project over the years has been viewed as a complete reconstruct project. And there's been conversation in the past about even rerouting Lingo Lane, but that project just kept getting bumped, started getting more expensive. And so after we did some of this reclaim and seal work on Vine Street, we decided, well, you know what, let's just do that very similar work to the rest of Lingo Lane and Magruder. Now is not the time to focus on widening or rerouting Lingo Lane. Let's just get it in a better driving shape. And that's what eventually led us to this recommendation. Basically, it'll buy us some time before we can ever get to a reroute and widening of this project because we don't have the money for it.
Got it. Any questions? All right. No, I think it's a good addition to CIP, particularly since we've already put the work in on the Wagner and Vine Street side. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any motions with respect to item E2?
Motion to approve item E2.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E2 passes. Item E3.
E3, approve the Fourth Amendment to the contribution in the aid of construction agreement with YMCA of the Golden Crescent Incorporated to reflect changes in the term effective date and open swim fee.
Good evening, Ms. Wube. How are
Hi,
you?
good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to talk today about a request for approval for the Fourth Amendment of the YMCA contribution in aid of construction agreement. I'm going to go over a bit of background. On June 10, 2014, the City of Victoria entered into an agreement with the YMCA of Golden Crescent, and the goal was to provide pool admissions at a lower rate to the community without having to hold a YMCA membership. And so that would be the Barbara Briggs YMCA at 1806 North Nimitz. Here's a copy of the 2025 summer pool schedule. As you can see highlighted in the bright orange, those are the open swim times that are available for residents, typically going from Tuesday all the way until Sunday. and the times may vary depending on programming. The YMCA current pool pricing structure is as follows. There are two different choices here. We have member access, which the pool access is included for all members listed on the membership, and that's a $5 entry fee applies to any guest. The community participant access is a $5 entry fee, and it's for a full day use. And so you can leave, you can re-enter during the same day, and you have to provide your receipt in order to get back in to access the pool. I wanted to highlight here some of the revenue and expenses that are showing for the YMCA throughout the year, starting from 2018 into 2024. As you can see, the top gray bar is showing the pool revenue for the YMCA, and it breaks it down to daily fees and pool rentals. And then all the expenses that are associated with the upkeep of the pool. And as you can see, there are significant higher rates of expenses as it relates to the revenue that is coming in. I did want to highlight here and of notice that, for example, let's take staffing costs as it relates to lifeguard rates. So in 2018, the YMCA went from $9 to $10 an hour for lifeguards. And when you think about chemicals, they went from 2018 for about $1,000 a month for those supplies, and the increase went now until 2025, it increased to $2,500 a month. So what we're here for today is the YMCA now requests to further amend the agreement to modify the term of the agreement and the YMCA's ability to increase two things: pool usage fees, as well as the contract effective date. So the YMCA of Golden Crescent has requested to make a change in the current contract language from useful life to set a termination date of 2035. In anticipation of the pool's lifespan. And I noted here in bold, although the pool's lifespans may vary, it is assumed that the YMCA pool may require maintenance in approximately 15 to 20 years, hence the date that was proposed. The second part that is requesting to be amended is the YMCA has requested contract language to be updated in order to raise the gate fee over time with the approval of the City of Victoria. This rate change will help offset the costs associated with staffing, supplies, etc. So just to more clearly explain what a gate fee is. So the gate fee is specific to one area. It's only buying access to the pool only. No access to any other parts of the building, and the day fee allows you full access. A day pass is $10, and currently the YMCA cannot raise their day fee of $10 without raising the gate fee. And so how would this work now versus how it would work once this is passed? So the official gate fee increase is set to take place in the summer of 2026. Given the potential for the increase in inflation rates, particularly if the YMCA has to adjust the membership rate, the agreement remains aligned. As it relates to the second part of the amended request, the goal is to minimize any additional deficits in the operational costs, staff wages. Essentially, the service that's being provided by the pool is a non-revenue generating source. It's a service, and yet the partnership's continued access to this pool would be an asset for the community. So I also have the executive director, Mr. Bud Oliver, here to answer any further questions that you may have regarding their request. And if you want to come up at this time.
Anything you want to add, Bud?
Anything you'd like to add? It's all you. Thank you, sir.
No, I just thank Lisa for considering this and bringing it forward. We're just trying to not lose as much money as we currently are. And we, like I said, to the Parks and Recs Department also, we want to be your pool, the city pool. And we know that at some point we're going to have to start fixing things as the use goes up, and then we want to add more amenities too. So, you know, we have a bucket. If you drive by, that bucket used to be red. Now it's like light orange from the sun use and so forth. And so we know things are going to start needing to be replaced. The one thing, our staff wages, we were paying, we started out in 2018 paying them $9 to $10 an hour for a lifeguard. Now we're up to $12.50 to $14.50 for a lifeguard. So, and our entry fee has been $5 since 2018. So we haven't raised those prices, but our costs have gone up. And then chlorine, as Lisa said, that's gone up more than doubled on us. And so I don't think that's going to go down either. And we continue to use more and more chlorine as the pool ages and so forth. So.
Very good. Thank you for the information. Are there any questions anyone has?
Yeah, can you go back one slide?
Sure.
Under the present agreement, if the pool needs maintenance, who takes care of the maintenance?
We do. The Y does.
If we do the termination thing, that means the contract is over and we start anew? I mean, you want to, is soon the way, require maintenance, so you want termination, right, of that? Termination date? So then you would ask another contract from us, or I don't understand, why do you need the termination date?
Well,
Because you would ask for maintenance from the city, or?
Well, the way I was reading the contract, right now it says the useful life of the pool. And that, depending on who you talk to, could be a number of, a different number. And so what we were looking at from the Y is, can we come up with a end date for the pool? That way, as I understand it, if something were to happen to the pool now, we have a contract, it's still the city's and ours as we work through this. If we were to set that end date and 2036 happened, and the pool had a major problem, which we've seen that a lot. Port Comfort, Port Lavaca's pool, Palacios' pool. I mean, you can name them all over the place. That they get to a certain point, and it takes a big number to replace that. It would be the Y's responsibility at that time.
Is the intention to keep the pool open for as long as you can, or is the intention that whatever date we end up setting as a useful life, that is the date that the Y is going to close the pool?
No, we would keep it open indefinitely.
Okay.
As long as there's still people to use it. And what we're looking at is investing some money in the pool in the next 5 or 10 years. As I said, the bucket and all the other little amenities that we'll need repaired, plus, we can maybe add some more things. I think this is not to say we're going to terminate the contract or anything like it, just to come to an understanding of what is the useful life of a pool.
And so for historical context, and this might help, so the city contributed $1.5 million to construct this pool. And so one way to look at it is, the city fronted the cash to build this amenity for our community. The Y obviously took on the responsibility to maintain it with the recurring expense of it, right? And obviously this agreement, as you've seen, the revenue that the pool generates, is not enough to cover the expenses. And that's just been exacerbated over the last, 5 years, thanks to the pandemic and other things, right? We're seeing the same thing. And so from my perspective, I do think it makes sense to put a termination date, right? Because that's our $1.5 million is getting us only so far, right? Come 2035, I think we can either invest another $1.5 million or $2 million into a aquatic asset in our community and continue to ask them to run it for us, or it just terminates and then everything becomes their responsibility, right? It's their responsibility to fundraise to improve the asset or enhance it, and then they have full freedom to develop the financial performance they need to develop in order to maintain it all on their own without us.
Thank you.
And if I could piggyback off that just real quickly, the original agreement did not define what the useful life was. So that was really anybody's guess as to how long this was intended to last at the time. So this at least gives some finality to what that period of time is going to look like. We picked 2035 because that is roughly 20 years from when the original agreement was entered into. And based on our research, as Lisa said, 15 to 20 years is what that is. So that's trying to clean up and clarify some of that also.
Okay. Thank you.
Other things that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, when was the plan to raise the gate fee?
We would be looking at next year, and like I said, it's not gonna, we wouldn't do it, we wouldn't go from $5 to $10, we would do it in increments.
Sure.
And again, as Lisa said, we'd come back to city council and give you a proposal and say, hey, you know, in 2026, we wanna go to $6 or $7.
Sure.
But yeah, you would have, you know,
Understood.
feedback on it.
Thank you.
Kind of piggyback off of that, what's the proportion of usage by paid YMCA members versus community partnership access?
We have a lot of different uses, so, you know, it's tough to track that, but if you go back, it's about 2,500 to 4,500 people that are city, that are non-YMCA members that use that pool a year. And then, you know, if you add in the Y members too, that they are city, you know, they're residents also of that, but 2,500 to 4,500. The other, in our strategic plan and our long-range plan is we want to open that pool year-round. So, you know, we've invested in a heater, and we want to start using that heater, and we want to start, you know, programming that thing so we don't shut it down in October and open it again in May, that we do year-round. We've hired an aquatics / childcare director now who's going to be with us year-round, and so her goal is, okay, how do we generate some more revenue? How do we generate some more interest and keep it open year-round? So now we're doing more lap swimming. We're doing more things that we can do year-round.
I'll make a comment. You know, at the time, I was up here, and we were having issues with the pool, and it was going to be very, very expensive. And we got out of the pool business, and the YMCA graciously took that over. Had we had our own pool, as a city-run pool, we'd probably be increasing fees to meet the demands and stuff like that. So I don't think what they're asking for is out of the ordinary.
No, and I hear you. You know, it's interesting to me that term useful life was not defined. It's no secret that undefined terms in contracts are often fertile grounds for dispute. And so perhaps we should define it why we can. So, all right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much for the information then.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, with that
Thank
then, I will entertain any motions with respect to item E3.
I move we adopt E3.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of E3, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E3 passes, and we will move to item E4. Mr. Foote, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pleasure to be here.
Sandra, can you read the item, please?
Yes, sir. E4, approve a Motorola lease purchase agreement for public safety radios for Motorola Solutions Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $2,878,191.10.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm here to present a proposal to enter a lease purchase agreement with Motorola Systems for the purchase of 245 Apex Next portable radios for the police and fire department. When we originally went through this, council may remember, but back in April 1st, I had actually submitted a proposal to purchase 41 radios from Motorola, and that was our original intent. And so when we were looking at this, the replacement cycle is what we were originally planning for, and we were looking at that as over the 7-year period of replacing out those radios. When you look at that cost, first I'll go back over and go to the outright purchase. The outright purchase today, if we pay them right now, is $2.5 million $2,540,516. We pay that up front. The problem with that is obviously it's affordability. This is not something that we budgeted for. We budgeted for in this year the $435,000 for the first round of payments, and every year after that was going to be about $350,000. So when you look at the replacement cycle, spreading out over the 7 years for the Apex Next radios, 245 radios, that was going to cost us approximately $3.3 million. Now we played with this number, and I came up with a 4% when I came up with this calculation. However, I want to bring up that when we originally, the last time we replaced out our radios, full replacement radios, was 2017. The cost of a police radio at that time was $4,500, and the cost of a fire radio was $5,000. The cost difference is because the fire department has a rugged housing, so it's a lot more durable. So it's a significant increase, but I didn't want to necessarily use that number, so I just went with the conservative 4%, just to show you at a 4%, that cost would be 3.3%. We would get those,
3.3 million.
I'm sorry, 3.3 million. We would get those units delivered out on a yearly basis, approximately 40 radios. However, and it is feasible, we can continue to go that route, but however, we don't feel that's the best value. And that leaves us with the lease purchase option. So we would get all 245 radios this year. The total price out would be $2.8 million, $878,000. The initial payment would be the $435,000 that we originally, council had approved back in April 1st. And then we'd make 7 payments of $349,000 for the remaining term. This is something that we've already discussed with city manager and finance going forward, as having that in the budget as an ongoing replacement cycle of $350,000. So this is not something we had already anticipated in our 26 budget. Feasibility, it is manageable costs, and we've got that long-term savings. So one of the reasons I brought that back, especially when we're looking at our core inflation right now, 2.8%. That's what 2025. A long-term average over the last 10 years has been 3.8%. But it was a conservative estimate to protect against budget volatility. Again, I'll remind you again that our historical rates have been a lot more than that. Now, I do want to make a point that on that 4,500 versus the 10,000, we are doing something a little bit different in that the previous purchase that in 2017 was for a 5-year maintenance agreement. This is for a 7-year maintenance agreement. So there is an increase. There's not really apples to apples. There's a little bit more on that. But what we've found is that after that 5-year replacement, and we've already gone past that 5-year, when we send any radio back to the shop to put it on what they call the bench, that's an automatic $700 charge before they even touch it to repair it. So when those costs, those are the things that we're looking at over there. So we opted to go with the 7 years, so that way we made sure we had the full amount for the maintenance. And of course, our justification is we're going to avoid equipment shortages. When we send something back, we have to wait so that we're scrounging to find another radio to give to that officer. And of course, the phased procurement risk. What we're going to run into, we're looking at that is obviously inflation, we're a big thing, and then one of the biggest things that we're looking at is the tariffs. We really don't know what's going to happen off that. All these are produced overseas, so this is one of the reasons why we really feel it's an opportunity for us to purchase them now, secure them at today's pricing, and then pay them out over that period of time. One of the other things that we're looking at long-term within the next year, we are going to be joining a regional radio system. And part of that requires that when we join that regional radio system, we will have to reprogram these radios. Council, if you remember with my last presentation I did for the year end, I mentioned about how long it took us to reprogram the radios with the help of DPS. That was 2.5 days with 14 people reprogramming these radios. So with this way, we were hoping that we can go ahead and get those reprogrammed or programmed before we even ship them out, and they already have the regional system configured in them. And I will answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Foote? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the information. Are there any motions with respect to item E4?
I move we adopt.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E4 passes, and that moves us to Section F, City Manager Reports. Mr. Garza.
We do have one city manager report for you this evening, and it'll be an update on the rain event from last week, as I alluded to in an email to you late last week. We know this was a topic of interest to the general public, and so we don't want to shy away from it. And so you're going to receive an update on the rain event as well as drainage infrastructure-related update from Ken. And then Greg is going to walk you through the wastewater overflow situation that arose late last week as well. Feel free to ask as many questions as you like. Our objective here is to make sure that you understand what happened, why it happened, and what we're doing to try and prevent these things from happening again.
Mr. Gill, welcome.
Welcome. We're back to a change from what we were at, famine to feast. So South Texas weather. Talk about the rain event on June 12th. This is some storm data that we received. This is from the National Weather Service. The 1 hour duration between about 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock was 2.33 inches. So 1 hour, we had about 2 inches of rain. Looking at a 3 hour duration from 7 in the morning to 10 a.m. was 3.69 inches. This was a kind of an unusual storm for what I've seen over the last several years. It was citywide. A lot of times we get a thunderstorm, we get 3 inches of rain in a certain part of town. This was everywhere. Looking at our equivalency of, is this a 100-year storm? It was about a 5-year storm based on the NOAA Atlas and the City of Victoria Drainage Criteria Manual. And this is very conservative estimation. High intensity, short duration are the most difficult for a drainage system. We can do a 3, 4, 5 inch rain if it's over an 8, 10 hour period and nobody will notice any flooding or any concerns. But it's those intense 1 hour, 2 hour rains that we have problems with. Kind of give you a little drainage history. Prior to 1978, subdivisions in general were based on a 2-year storm. 1 CFS runoff per acre. Very liberal design back in that day. Then in 1978 to 1999, in 78 we did our first storm drainage master plan. At that time we did base subdivisions based on a 5-year storm, collectors based on a 25-year storm, and the most significant out of this whole improvements from 78 was slab elevations 22 inches above top of curb. That made a huge difference. Then in 1999, we did the update, the big major master plan of the drainage and subdivision, still based on a 5-year storm. How we came to that is the cost to design drainage and subdivisions and collectors and things to a 100-year storm is not feasible, costly, and really not able to do it because of the hydraulic grade lines of our outfalls. No more than 12 inches above the crown of roadway, even on a 100-year storm event. That was critical to make sure we could get emergency services into a neighborhood or down an arterial street. We implemented overland relief. In other words, if drainage in a neighborhood or a street gets so high, it has a way out to get to the creek. It just overflows out, doesn't flood anymore. Collectors based on a 25-year storm, and again, showing the 100-year storm not to exceed that 12-inch crown. We raised the slab elevation to 30 inches above the gutter. Big reason we started at the gutter is a lot of neighborhoods are going to 4-inch curb. So we wanted to keep that height of the houses well above the street elevations. And then we implemented design requirements, detention. And we updated the 12.6 inch rain to 14.2 inch rain intensity for a 24-hour period. That's based on a NOAA Atlas 14, which was also in the master plan update. This was I think this was a great tool. We use it to this day. This was a rain-on grid that Civil Tech did during their master plan update. They basically took the city of Victoria, took the GIS information, the topography, the impervious cover, and they took and dumped a 100-year storm on Victoria. And they basically showed areas where we have flooding issues, you know, how deep it's getting. You'll see those purple, the high purple areas, detention basins, some of the creeks that are shown. The blue area is light flooding, and that's, you know, a majority of the town, maybe 6 inches to a foot. And this was, in our opinion, it validated the areas that we know of known drainage concerns. It showed up on the map everywhere. Next thing I want to show is some of the highlighted areas. This was Mockingbird Lane, Laurent to Navarro. These are actual pictures during June 12th. And as you can see on that rain-on grid, it gets pretty deep, about 2 to 3 feet deep on that section of Mockingbird. But if you'll notice, the key point is that yellow and red does not get out of the bounds of the right-of-ways of the streets. I think that's critical, that's key. That's that keeping those slab heights elevated above the curb. The next one, of course, we all know the railroad underpasses. Those are purple. They have to regulate by pumps, and they just cannot keep up during these intense rainfalls. And the last one I want to show, Julie took this picture. This is Woodway. And this is a neighborhood that was built between 78 and into the 80s. And again, 5-year storm, and slab heights 22 inches above. The streets do flood. Granted, we know that. However, the good part is when they do flood, when it quits raining, give it about 20, 30 minutes, and water's gone, and you're out of there. One of the things we did during this flood event was tell some of these schools that were having summer programs, shelter in place. You know, don't call school off. We don't want anybody to get out there to try to get their children in a flood. They're safe. And we relayed that on to OLV and Nazareth, which are the 2 biggest summer programs. Keeping it flowing. What we're doing now, street sweeping program for collectors and residential streets. That is helping immensely to keep that dirt and debris out of the storm sewers. We've been doing that with our own sweepers, in-house crews, and we continue to do that operationally on every day, run both sweepers.
And real quick, and for context for our new council members that may not, newer council members, that we used to outsource. It used to be in-house a long time ago, and then it went outsourced, and we brought that back in-house maybe 3 years ago.
3 years
or
ago.
so ago, because it was costing us a lot of money to outsource, and the streets were maybe being swept maybe once. And so it was very intentional effort on our part to try and just do more street sweeping. It's a super mundane kind of job and function, but it makes a big difference to keeping it flowing.
Yes, thank you. The other one is storm sewer and inlet cleaning. This was another one where Public Works worked. We had a vacuum truck that was in the wastewater department. It was getting of age and we needed to get another one, but we didn't want to just throw that one away. So we took it, moved it over to the street department so that they could use to clean, you know, the storm sewers and inlets. And we had a really good thing come up. We took that piece of equipment, which was aging, took it to a certified dealer, and they revamped it, and that machine is running like new. I mean, it was, instead of trying to piecemeal it, they took the whole thing. Well, doing that, we've gone into neighborhoods that, from my experience, 30 years, we've never cleaned storm sewer. And we started cleaning some of these inlets, these smaller storm sewer sizes that may be 12 or 18 inch in a neighborhood, cleaning out the debris that pipe was running half full. That was one of the big things that came out of that master plan update, is you need to get your storm sewers cleaned because you're losing that capacity and you're losing that drainage flow. The other thing, part of that master drainage plan update was outfall mowing program. That is a significant impact on drainage. The higher those weeds and grasses are, the slower the water can get out. So we continue to do that yearly on an annual basis, but several times per year. The other one is roadside ditch cleaning and reshaping program. Street department goes out, selects an area, and they, instead of cleaning a small section of ditch, they may clean several streets or a whole area to get that water to flow out better. Finally, what I want to go through is future planning from the Storm Drainage Master Plan update. You've seen a lot of these projects in some of the previous presentations talking about the drainage rate potential. Large diameter storm sewer cleaning projects, Red River box culvert. Of course, we all know Red River around Ben Wilson, that has been flooding for many, many years, is let's clean out that box and clean out that storm sewer to get that water, make sure it has got a free flow out. Mockingbird, same thing. That little section of Mockingbird between Laurent and Navarro, get in there, TV it, inspect it, and clean it. Salem Road between Guy Grant and Derry, that will help Guy Grant drain as well as Salem. And then Lova Drive between Hummingbird to North Street, that's in the Mayfair area. There is flooding in that area around Linda and Gale that we experience. Outfall cleaning and reshaping, Jim Branch outfall. The railroad ditch, which is the ditch that Red River box culvert dumps into that goes all the way to Lone Tree Creek. West outfall, just cleaning that out will improve drainage. Midas ditch, which is on North Navarro by the old Midas muffler. And then Whispering Creek and Callis ditch. All those are outfall projects to, again, maintain our drainage system. And then also concrete lining repairs. North outfall, there's some areas around the Target area that are failing that we need to repair. Ben Jordan, there's a section of the concrete that has pulled away and exposed the natural ground. And then north outfall around the mall area. But that's really what we want to focus on, is that it was an exceptional rain, very high intensity, but I just want to say that the way we're moving with our drainage criteria manual and moving forward, the new subdivisions are doing great. Very little effects, very little calls. And the older neighborhoods, that's what we're trying to address here, is to try to improve their drainage and moving forward. And I'll answer any questions on the street or storm drainage part if you got any, before I turn it over to Greg.
I just have a comment. I thought it drained off pretty well.
Yes, it
For
does.
the massive amount of rain that we had,
Yep.
it cleared up very quickly. So to be expected to have some water in the roadways.
Yes. Greg and I
That was
drove
part
it.
of the
and
drainage system is the roads. I get that.
It was precarious in some spots, but we were driving. And again, it's staying in the middle. We want to keep that 12-inch depth so we can get those ambulance and fire trucks out if we need to. So I'll turn it over to Greg.
Well, any
He'll
other
talk about
questions or
wastewater.
comments for Ken?
Yes.
As Greg comes up, I'll just briefly mention that obviously we've talked about all these projects. We of course have the drainage master plan. You're familiar with our limitations and our challenges as it relates to doing more of these types of projects, right? So there's obviously a positive correlation between the availability of funding and manpower and our ability to do more of those things, right? And so that's a conversation that, as we alluded to at a recent council meeting, we want to continue having with you about establishing a stormwater utility, because we currently do not have a dedicated funding source for drainage-related projects or maintenance the way that most cities in Texas do. And so that's a conversation that we want to continue having with you over the next month or two. Note that when we present the preliminary budget in a couple of weeks, it is not accounting for any changes to that in that regard. We don't want to be rash with making any assumptions, and so We'll continue to work and discuss with you in one-on-ones and in other council meetings to try and fine-tune what we end up doing with the stormwater utility. But that would make a huge difference to our ability to be more proactive and aggressive with some of the recommendations from the master plan and to address issues that everybody knows exist.
Thank you.
All right, Greg?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Just want to go over some of the challenges that we had on this wastewater overflow on June 12th. The overflow locations are as followed. Up to the north, we have Ben Jordan, where we have Odom Street wastewater plant and one of the manholes up there on the 1300 block of Ben Jordan. And down south, we have the regional wastewater treatment plant. Odom Street wastewater plant, of course, located on 1309 Southwest Ben Jordan. We had the aeration basin began overflowing at 2 o'clock. The pumps at the plant were turned off at 5:30. We noticed, according to our trends, that it started at 2 o'clock. So the Odom Street is a plant that is unmanned. So that's how we went ahead and came to where, if you're wondering why we barely noticed at 5:30. The total overflow period was 3.5 hours, or a total of 1,050,000 gallons. All this was contained on the city property. We cleared rags and debris from the line, and the plant operation was back online at 1:30 in the morning. So we had rags in the line that went and made its way through the screening structure into the aeration basins, into the treatment process, and clogged up a line where it went to the clarifier process, which I will show you here in the next slide. This is where it is introduced into the clarifier. If you look at the picture on the left-hand side, everything was matted up in there. And on the right, that is about a dump truck full of rags and everything else that you go ahead and flush down the toilets. Wipes and all the nasty stuff that you do not want.
Greg, when it said it went through the screen, was that just from the sheer volume and the force of that? Like normally it would not have gotten through the screen on a normal rain event?
Yes, sir. So normally it goes through at a lower flow, but with all this water that's pushing it through, it kind of reminds me of a fire hose pushing paper through, and it just forces its way through the screening structure.
Okay, thank you.
The regional wastewater treatment plant overflow, Regional Street wastewater plant at 923 US Highway 59. The overflow from the primary structure, we released approximately 75,000 gallons that went into the roadway and into the holding basin. So all this was on site. And at the regional wastewater treatment plant, we have a holding basin there to where if anything was to overwhelm the wastewater treatment plant, then we have that where it'll go ahead and sit there to where it won't go ahead and back up the plant as much. So it gives us more room to not back up the collection system. Like I said, later, this was all pumped into the headworks for the treatment. So like I said, it just made its way back into the treatment process, and it has been taken care of. This is some of the issues that we had at the regional wastewater plant. Of course, we have huge raw water pumps, like shown on the left. All these rags and everything built up. So we have about 4 of those pumps, and that happened right there about 5 times throughout the day. If you look on the picture on the right, that's where everything overflowed from our other screening structures. So, of course, at the regional wastewater treatment plant, we have 3 screening structures: a Dupron screen, our headworks at the top, and another screening structure at the bottom. That was all the stuff that forced its way through. In addition to that, we had the manhole that overflowed on Southwest Ben Jordan and released approximately 414,000 gallons of flow into the ditches along Southwest Ben Jordan. All of these areas were cleaned up with debris and treated with HDH. The same thing that was treated over there at Odom and Regional as well. Went and cleaned this all up, reported to the state, and in their eyes, we're okay. So last year, we went ahead and did a I&I study with RJN Engineering. And if you look up north where the priority 1 and priority 2 is, we'll go ahead and see everything from the manholes, the service lines, and the sewer mains. And right now, currently in 2027, we have for the CIP project to repair 780 manholes. So on the priority 1, like I said, you will see that the numbers for gallons per day total 2,926,500 for all of the manhole, service lines, and sewer lines, with estimated construction costs for all three being 2,327,540, and the capital cost being 3,025,000 for priority 1, and for priority 2 being a total of 752,338 for the gallons per day reduction in I&I, the estimated construction cost being 1,130,550, and estimated capital cost of 1,469,715. In closing, we want to go ahead and remember the 4 Ps, all the stuff that we can go ahead and flush down the toilet, right? Some of the 4 Ps include poop.
Why is it so slow?
Building up the suspense, Jesus.
It's clogging the drainage.
This
That's why
is
it's
Ken.
slow.
OMG.
Paper. Does anybody want to guess the 4th?
I'm scared to at this point. Go on.
And puke. So I also want to go ahead and give a big shout out to the utility staff, the wastewater staff as well. They did a great job. They stayed up till 1:30 in the morning getting everything back online. They were literally down at the Odom Street wastewater plant in that little hatch that you saw that was cut out, getting everything out with shovels and almost like rakes. And like I said, all those rags that came through, that was half a dump truck worth of stuff that was flowed through the plant, through the treatment process. So a big shout out to those guys. They did a great job.
And you're saying that came through the storm drainage, which
That came through, the lift stations will pump it to the raw water, through the screening process and into the raw water, through the rest of the treatment process.
Okay.
Do y'all have any questions about any of the process?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but can you go back to the slide where you talk about the priority areas and the cost? I thought you had a slide in here talking about that we do have in the CIP. Can you talk about that?
Currently, we do have in the CIP to go ahead and abandon an 18-inch line and a 36 line on Southwest Bend Jordan. Currently, right now, they are active, and that will be something that will help reduce some of this I&I.
The 2 projects that are in the CIP is the manhole rehabilitation, priority 1. That's in 2026, 27. And then the other one is the sewer line rehabilitation, which Greg mentioned, that's part of the area that we want to focus on, and that's at 1.4 million. Those are in the current 5-year CIP. Is that what you want?
Yes, thank you. I just want to convey, right, to you, obviously, that these recommendations stemming from the I&I study are recommendations we're trying to squeeze into our CIP, but it can be challenging, right? I'm not trying to beat a dead horse with that concept, but we recognize that we have needs that exceed our financial capacity, and so where we need your help in, of course, is the prioritization of all of these things. And historically, streets has always elevated to the top, and it probably will forever. But know that there are other projects, both with drainage related or that might address I&I issues that, if you so chose to, could rise in priority. But just know that those plans have been developed and those recommendations are there.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much for the information. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Mr. Garza, are there any other city manager reports?
No, sir.
All right, I understand we do not have an executive session, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so we are concluded at 6:29.